Ever hear about electronic employment eligibility verification? Oh my God, that's tiresome to say. Me neither. Until now, all that fancy verbiage breaks down to this. It's a card everyone in the country might need to get one day in order to respond to help wanted ads. Non-card holders need not apply. Jim Harper of the Cato Institute joins us now. So tell me about this. I mean, I don't know if I had that actually completely accurate or not. So go ahead and give us the specifics.
Well, electronic employment verification is the idea that everybody who goes to work in the United States should be run past the government, central databases in the government, to see if they're eligible to work under our immigration laws. It's a way of trying to enforce immigration laws that are widely flouted. The idea of internal enforcement is that paper should be checked. When we're employed today, the employers will look at our driver's license and social security card. They're trying to move that into the internet era and do automatic database checks.
This may be a no-duh statement here, but I'm guessing there are probably a lot of people who are not kosher with this idea.
Well, the direction of this kind of thing is a biometric national ID system. There are a lot of flaws in employment eligibility verification today. It's defeated a lot by identity frauds, big or small. The way to fix this problem is by putting all Americans into a national ID system, and that's where the privacy and civil liberties concerns and cost concerns come in. The costs are huge on all those dimensions.
Okay, you kind of touched upon why you are opposed to this idea about this employment eligibility verification, essentially this card. You went down the list of things such as cost. Let's talk about the cost. What are we talking about in terms of cost? What do you estimate the cost to be for this system to be put in place and then to be monitored?
Well, it's hard to know, obviously, from the beginning, but we have some evidence. The Real ID program, which is a national ID program without biometrics, would cost $18 billion, according to Department of Homeland Security estimates from a couple of years ago. That's for improvement on existing Department of Motor Vehicle functions. An all-new system, perhaps run by the Social Security Administration, would require all new infrastructure, so it could be twice that. And I've never seen a government program come in under budget, so anticipate 30, 40, maybe $50 billion of expenditures to create this thing. Hundreds of millions ongoing year over year to maintain such a system.
Okay. There are plenty of people out there in the American public who feel as if there has to be something done when it comes to people who are not U.S. citizens being hired in lieu of other people who are U.S. citizens and them not being hired. So if that's the case, then doesn't this kind of maybe streamline that process of figuring out who is legal and who isn't legal?
Well, it's certainly possible, at least theoretically possible, to build a bulletproof system to figure out who's legal and who's not legal. The problem is what happens with that system next. Once a national ID card system is in place, well, it's going to be used for the next big project. May work for immigration reform to some degree, and I can tell you how it will fail in that respect as well. But if it works for immigration reform, well, it'll work for health care too. It could work for controlling gun ownership, access to financial services, access to housing. Actually, many of these things have already been proposed under the national ID law that is now failing. We would transfer a lot of power as citizens to the government and to corporations if we had a national ID that we were required to show regularly.
But Mr. Harper, some people, I'm guessing, would listen to your list of explanations here and say, I think that's a great idea. How do you respond to that?
Well, they're welcome to move to less free countries where they can live unfreely. But I feel strongly, and my organization, the Cato Institute, feels strongly that we should preserve the liberties that we have as Americans. And a national ID system is entirely inconsistent with that kind of liberty. There are plenty of ways to identify yourself. You have to identify yourself and use credentials throughout society. So there are technical solutions to the problems we face today, but a single biometric national ID system is not that solution.
The article that I read from you was dated 2008. What's the viability of this piece of legislation now?
Well, the Real ID Act was passed in 2005. It was supposed to create a national ID system by 2008. States across the country declined to participate, red states and blue states alike. And the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, has extended the deadline several times, most recently at the end of last year. A new proposal is just coming out, though, to join with immigration reform that would have the federal government create an all-new national biometric ID system. That's proposed by New York Senator Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham from South Carolina.
Jim Harper of the Cato Institute, thank you so much for joining us today.